Greetings, fellow YouTubers, RWG. Today is November 16th, 2013. Look out. It's 6:51 p.m. I walked outside and I was like, holy cow, how'd the moon get over there? It was due east at 6 o'clock. I made a short video. And anyway, it's very difficult for me to express what I have to offer. Okay, you have this cool machine, and we have theory, and theory is rediscovered theory. More than that, they're hidden in plain sight. Now, the object of taking a round ball magnet with either a single or a double pole and sending it through a tube as a third wall, a glass tube as the third wall, covered by the steel rod, wrapped in a primary coil, and then inserted on top a second steel bar or rod, and then wrapped with the coil on the outside. It either gives you a negative on the outside or it gives you a positive on the inside. Let's say I had a positive on the inside and I got a little glass tube slipped in there, and I take a little tiny BB or a little tiny round magnet, Neo, and I launch it through there. What do you think is going to happen? I can imagine seeing a track made of one pole, a south pole. I could see a PMH actually round and as a single pole on the outside. Yeah, we could levitate magnets, should be able to levitate superconducting magnets right on top of that track. And it's a permanent magnet, it's a permanent PMH. So once it's energized, correct? We've discovered a lot of things, and I've been doing this research for many, many years. I started with Tesla and Dr. Townsend Brown. I researched Rodin and all these other characters, and these great men, and these experimenters, and you know, there's so much information out there today that if you seek, you will find the knowledge that you want. And I tell you, I can now see in my mind a balloon with a coil on that balloon, or an electrostatic field. I could see putting it there from a wire and a key and harnessing that energy. You don't have this ground connection, you have to have this gap. So therefore all these free energy devices normally have a gap and are not connected directly to the ground. And as Tesla states, the higher the better. Yet we must agree, and we can certainly send things up a flagpole or on the end of a kite, or we could even tether an aircraft. Perhaps the Wright brothers had the tether on their craft. It seems to me we've opened up Pandora's box. It's basically an unlimited supply of free energy, and we have a means in which to operate on it. For my railroad track design, it's marvelous because somebody else had already reproduced it. In a sense, they had a magnetic field. They had a magnetic motor. It is essentially the same thing. I can advance that patent if I wanted, or if somebody wanted to share and help a poor man. I have what I have to offer. What I have to offer is freely given. Okay? Everything that I have done is in the name of science. And that is where the controversy lies. It's not who can capitalize and who reproduces something first. It's always a theory. Einstein did not have to prove anything. It took many years for anything about Einstein's theory of special relativity or gravity to be understood. And we are at that time and place in history. And there's a time and place in history for me to come to you. I come to you in peace, okay? With love in my heart and understanding. I look upon your face, and I cannot deny the similarities we have. But I'm all philosophical, right? Well, you'd have to watch another Star Trek episode to understand why. And maybe I'll make a joke of it later on down the line. Yeah. If I take a linear track, okay, let's make it 3 meters. 3 to 6 meters. We'll start. We'll make a 1/2 inch tube, 1/2 inch wide cardboard tube, and around it we'll wrap at about 1,500. Let's say we could go 1,500 wraps of fine wire. I can do this in sections of 20 wraps or 10 wraps if I wanted to. I could negate lens effect, and I can send the item down the tube virtually at any speed that I would like. When I introduce a lens effect, I will have magnetic braking. Magnetic braking will give me an electromagnetic force, and therefore I will have energy because of it. Next, I can simply take that energy and shuttle it to the third coil, to the second coil in line, and do it in series. Okay, I can make each magnet coil 10 wraps. Okay, the first coil of 10 wraps is connected to the third coil of 10 wraps. Okay, the lens effect will be taken as induction from the second and the fourth coils, and we can place them in series or also parallel. From there, I can shuttle that lens effect around in a spiral eddy current fashion around my track. I could create a whirlwind around my track, and around my track I'll have spinning vortices of magnetic fields. Okay? You can do this with rodent coils for spectacular effects, perhaps. I invented an idea, and I would like Russ to help me build the coil that I had in mind. The coil in mind is regular rodent coil, three wire, DC pulsed, and then do the exact same thing on the other side with thicker wire and in the opposite direction. Together that makes one pair. You connect them together. Now you have a complete hourglass vortex design with one side having the higher conductivity and least amount of resistance. Therefore, you have a changing magnetic field. We have a velocity change through each coil, and we have a way to pick it up. We pick up that back energy, we pick up that electromagnetic force as current. We store them in caps, or we use them to work on the coils ahead. Okay, your marvelous Adreno can do that. I've seen it in operation. Many people can make a simple circuit, and the circuitry is of marvelous design and is useful to us in this situation. The tether incident I went over the coil. There's other ways that we can make coils. Okay, now if I made an Edley-Scalman coil, a long inductive coil, 3 to 6 feet, okay, I made it into a PMH, I energized it, I have an inside north and I have an outside south. I now have, I can take a north facing magnet and place it on top and it should levitate, correct? If it falls off, you have to make a little tube. You put it inside the tube, right? It would levitate. Sure. Now I give it a velocity through that tube. What happens? It'll continue to accelerate until it gets to the end. Or we could say it continues to decelerate until it gets to the end. Whichever operation you wish to work on, you may. You can either go forward or backwards. Okay. In the way of thinking, what we're doing is reverse engineering that instead of going forward, we're going backwards. We're looking at things totally different than science allows us to, and then we use science itself to prove it. Okay? A lens effect is a magnetic braking effect in conductors. It's due to current and electromotive force and magnets crossing electric field lines of the coils. Okay, when you put a brake in there, if I give it an acceleration, torque times delta T, okay, I can give it 1,000 feet per second in an instant. And instantly I'll have a breakdown in that energy and a slowing in velocity as it goes through my lens effect generator. Okay? From there, I simply take away that lens effect and let the projectile travel on its own and accelerate again for a certain amount of distance or time delta t. Okay? And I take that energy that was induced in the first coil and I send it to the third coil, and I can induce that current in each consecutive coils. So 1 and 3 and 2 and 4 coils are changing. Okay? The current, the braking, the magnetic braking is transferred into these other coils and also into your capacitors. Or for charging batteries. This is what you want to do with this type of zero-point device. Because essentially we are using magnetic and electrical means, and that is the fabric of our world. You know, these monopoles exist, and simply if you had a negative charge on a superconductor, it would be a superconducting south pole charge. And if I did the same with a north pole positive charge and placed it on a superconductor, again, I would have a north-facing magnet. You try to put those together and you have magnetic suspension. These are marvelous effects that we've learned. And some of my oldest experiments date back to when I was 13 years old, when I took 2 big base speaker magnets and put them on an aluminum axis with a skateboard wheel and some bearings, and I stuck a pair of scissors in the top on an axis, and I hung another magnet, and then I hung a tiny metal nut, and the effect was amazing. You could never believe what I had discovered then, because I had saw it in operation for myself. The magnetic twisting influence that it had on my metal nut. Okay? I had essentially made the sun as my negative field. I hung on an axis, on a string, of course, with a tension on 2 sides, a tweeter magnet, much smaller than the large magnets, and it was inside that negative field that I had produced. They were big magnets, so there was about 12 inches between them. Next, I wanted to do the same thing with the speaker magnet And I used a tiny metal nut. It wasn't a magnet at all. And I hung it on a thread. And when I placed it there, on an axis, on a string, with two tensions, it flipped around all over the place. It was amazing. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And I assumed I could get rotation as planetary orbits do and moons do around planets as we go around our sun. Lots of the study that I did is related to most of the suppressed information, which comes from Dr. Townsend Brown and Tesla and Moray, and these X-ray machines and the gamma machines and the plasma machines and the hydrogen machines and all these machines and the marvelous coils and the special designs, and we can go on and on and on. It is an endless, vast sea of knowledge.